So this is absolutely stunning. Donald Trump's own DOJ just made a filing in Washington, D.C., talking about how horrific the January 6th insurrection was, and it also links terroristic threats against former President Obama to social media posts that Donald Trump made. Now, it should be noted that Jeanine Pirro from Fox is the main federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., who filed this document. So as Donald Trump has spread all of these January 6th conspiracies, Jeanine Pirro, whether it's because of her oversight or intentionally throwing Donald Trump under the bus, talked about the January 6th insurrection and talked about Donald Trump's social media post resulting in somebody at the January 6th insurrection thereafter committing multiple other offenses, including threats against former President Obama. Let's just go through this document now. Someone may be losing their job at the Department of Justice in Washington, D.C. So this filing, just so you can see, it was made yesterday, October 28th, 2025, and it's in a criminal prosecution of a guy named Taylor Franklin Toronto, who was criminally prosecuted regarding his role in the January 6th insurrection, and then later committed additional crimes in 2023 when he returned to Washington, D.C., and did multiple other acts for which he was charged. There was what's called a bench trial where he was eventually convicted of those crimes. And let me just read from this filing. It says the following. On January 6, 2021, thousands of people comprising a mob of rioters attacked the U.S. Capitol while a joint session of Congress met to certify the results of the 2020 presidential election. This guy over here named Taylor Franklin Toronto was accused of participating in the riot on Washington, D.C. by entering the U.S. Capitol building. After the riot, Toronto returned to his home in the state of Washington, where he promoted conspiracy theories about the events of January 6, 2021. I wonder where he would get these conspiracy theories from. Was he promoting the conspiracy theories that Donald Trump was feeding him? So that was in this motion filed yesterday, which involved a sentencing of Toronto because Toronto was convicted of his more recent crimes from 2023. And this was the sentencing memo where the DOJ is asking that he serve a total of 27 months in incarceration. This is coming from the government. So it goes on, this motion saying Toronto, he committed all of these crimes. Look what he did on January 6th. Look at these conspiracy theories that he was spreading about January 6th. Again, the Trump DOJ filed this yesterday. It goes on to say in this filing, in June 2023, Toronto returned to Washington, D.C. He drove through the city and the surrounding region in his van and engaged in alarming behavior that targeted at public officials. His erratic behavior intensified on June 28, 2023, when he live streamed himself and suggested that he outfitted his vehicle with a detonator. He made several statements indicating that he intended to blow up his vehicle at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Now, it says, the next day, get this, on June 29, 2023, then former President Donald Trump published on a social media platform the purported address of former President Barack Obama. Toronto reposted the address on the same platform and thereafter started live streaming from his van on his YouTube channel. Toronto broadcast footage of himself as he drove through the neighborhood where Obama lived in Washington, D.C., claiming he was searching for tunnels that he believed would provide him access to the private residence of certain high-profile individuals, including former President Obama. He parked his van, walked away from it, and approached a restricted area protected by the United States Secret Service. He walked through the nearby woods and stated, "Gotta get the shot. Stop at nothing. Get the shot." After noticing the presence of Secret Service, he said, "If I were them, I'd be watching this, watching my every move." He said, "So yeah, more than likely, these guys also hang for treason. I control the block." It then says, shortly following his arrest, officers located Toronto's van and multiple law enforcement agencies responded to the scene. Police recovered hundreds of rounds of ammunition, and they seized his backpack that included multiple firearms, a pistol, and other weapons. You see those weapons right there. Now, it goes on to request that he be sentenced to 27 months in prison, then 36 months of supervised release, plus 200 hours of community service. Now, take a look at who signed this. Jeanine Pirro. It's also signed by other DC lawyers, Carlos Valdivia and Samuel White. But as you go and read what I just read for you on page 3, it's almost like they're saying Trump's a co-conspirator. They don't use that language. Let me be very clear. But it says, the next day, Donald Trump posts the private address of Obama, and this criminal by the name of Taylor Franklin Toronto, who participated in the mob of rioters attacking the joint session of Congress, returns to the crime scene, goes after Obama, takes the address given to him by Donald Trump, and goes to Obama's house, where he's intercepted by the Secret Service while he was live streaming this on frickin' YouTube. The government's sentencing memoranda, signed Jeanine Pirro. So I want to point that out from the outset, okay? Another thing I want to point out, because the DOJ is in total disarray right now. A federal, and this bodes awful for Lindsay Halligan, who is Donald Trump's former personal lawyer turned top federal prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, who was likely unlawfully appointed as an interim top federal prosecutor when she was not allowed to do that under the appointment clause, because under the appointment clause, there needs to be confirmation by the United States Senate. There's a statute that allows you on an interim basis for a limited period of time before confirmation to be what's called an interim United States attorney, but that's for a finite period of time. And if the federal judges in that district don't extend you on an interim basis and you're not confirmed in the United States Senate, you're done. And that's the only time the president can ever appoint someone on an interim basis. So you get one attempt, finite time. You can't then make a second person an interim. So as it relates to Lindsay Halligan, there was already an individual who was made an interim in the Eastern District of Virginia. That individual said there was no crimes committed by Comey, no crimes committed by Letitia James. So Trump fired that interim person, brought in Halligan, said, "You're the interim." And Halligan's the only person who signed both the indictments of Comey and James. Not a single other United States attorney or assistant or any federal prosecutor signed on with Lindsay Halligan, and that's why Halligan's going to be screwed.
This episode of the MeidasTouch podcast is brought to you by bookshop.org. You may be watching or listening to our show right now, but are you reading enough? I know I need to be reading a whole lot more. It's time to dive back into books and finally conquer that reading goal you set for yourself this year with bookshop.org. There are so many incredible books out right now to help make sense of this moment, or maybe you just want to escape the political noise and unwind with a good thriller. I just started Dan Brown's new book, The Secret of Secrets, and I am hooked. What makes bookshop.org so special is that it is unapologetically anti-Amazon. When you purchase from bookshop.org, you are supporting local independent bookstores, so they will be here for all of us in the future. In fact, they have already raised over $30 million for local bookstores. You can even choose which store to support, your neighborhood favorite or one from your hometown. I personally love visiting Skylight Books here in Los Angeles and the Last Bookstore in downtown LA, two places that really capture the magic of reading. Start feeling good about where you buy books. Use code MIDAS, M-E-I-D-A-S, to get 10% off your next order at bookshop.org/Midas. That's code MIDAS, M-E-I-D-A-S, to get 10% off at bookshop.org/Midas.
Take a look at this ruling that just occurred where a federal judge said the Central District of California federal prosecutor, United States Attorney, interim United States Attorney, a guy named Bill Assaili, has been acting under his role unlawfully since July. A pretender, a fake, a phony United States attorney. Now, what this judge ruled in the case involving Bill Assaili, because this was brought by criminal defendants who Assaili was prosecuting, but in these criminal prosecutions, Assaili at least had other federal prosecutors sign the pleadings. So even if you disqualify Assaili and say Assaili can't be the federal prosecutor, which is what was ruled here, there are still other prosecutors whose names are mentioned. What the court says is, Assaili, you can be what's called a first assistant United States attorney, but you're not the lead federal prosecutor, so you don't have that title anymore. But the prosecutions in that case of the criminal defendants can go on simply because other federal prosecutors were on the pleading, were on the filing. As it relates to James and Comey, the only prosecutor on the filing is Lindsay Halligan. Lindsay Halligan can't be the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia on an interim basis because Trump got one shot. And he picked somebody else and then fired that person. Lindsay Halligan then went into the grand jury room all by herself with no one else there because no one else thought there were criminal charges that could be filed against Comey and James. And now get this, and this is going to be a disaster for her. The federal judge who will be hearing the Lindsay Halligan disqualification motion has ordered Halligan to turn over the grand jury testimony. So the court's going to read that and all of Halligan's communications about how she became unlawfully, although the court hasn't said it yet, the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. If you're Lindsay Halligan, you are terrified right now before you go to sleep, if you can even sleep, and you wake up in the morning, because that bar license, that license of you as a lawyer, I don't know, Lindsay. You're about to be cross-examined by some of the top lawyers in this country. You're going to have to turn over all of those communications with Donald Trump. And it may have felt good, Lindsay, when you got those indictments against Comey and Letitia James at first. But who the hell knows what you even told the grand jury? Guess who's going to find out now? The judge. Lindsay, were you lying to the grand jury? Were you providing fake information about who person 3 was in the Comey indictment? Uh-oh. Did you do that, Lindsay? And what about Letitia James? Did you say that her niece was paying for rent that never really was happening? The only rent ever was like $1,200 that New York Attorney General Letitia James disclosed. Did you tell the grand jury something else when other grand juries were rejecting the same case? Did you lie to them and have an FBI agent in both cases provide incorrect information? Oh no, Lindsay Halligan. Didn't you see what happened to Jenna Ellis? Didn't you see what happened to Rudy Giuliani and all these other lawyers? I think you're going to be joining them. Sucks to be you, Lindsay Halligan, but we'll watch it play out. But that's what you get. That's called karma right there. Also, more bad news for Donald Trump in the form of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in an en banc panel. En banc, E-N space B-A-N-C, en banc, Latin. The full Ninth Circuit, they've vacated for now what that 3-judge panel did. There was a 3-judge panel that include 2 Trump judges on the Ninth Circuit, where they said, as it relates to Portland, Oregon, Trump can bring those National Guard troops there. But the full Ninth Circuit said, we're putting that aside. We're vacating that. Now the full Ninth Circuit en banc panel is going to hear what's going down in Portland, Oregon, and all the Ninth Circuit judges are going to finally and definitively chime in whether Trump's invasion of cities like Portland, Oregon, where, by the way, a district court judge at the first level from Portland found what Trump was doing was unlawful. A Trump-appointed judge. Then it went to a 3-judge panel, the Ninth Circuit 3-judge panel, and 2 Trump judges, and another judge overruled her. And then it's now going to go to the full Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We will keep you posted there every step of the way. And then also it should be noted that a judge yesterday issued a ruling blocking Donald Trump's attempt to terminate these federal workers using the shutdown as a pretext. So it's U.S. District Judge Susan Ilston issued a temporary restraining order against the Trump regime firing these government workers during the shutdown and saying, because of the shutdown, we don't have to follow administrative procedures. And Judge Ilston talked about the human cost, the human toll the Trump regime is inflicting on these government workers. When Judge Ilston ruled against Donald Trump, she read the sworn declaration of Air Force veteran Sonia Crocker, who says, prior to my current job, I worked at the Equal Employment Opportunity. And before that, I was in the United States Air Force. During all that time, including during my combat deployment, I have never gone through anything as traumatizing as what I am now experiencing. And Judge Ilston wanted the lawyer for the DOJ here named Michael Velchik, who previously was known for praising Mein Kampf when he was apparently in a school project when he was in college and law school, apparently praised Mein Kampf to friends, according to Forward and a bunch of other papers, digital magazines, whatever. Michael Vilchik responded to the judge when the judge says the human toll here is something you need to figure out. And then Vilchik said, the American people wanted this, Judge. And the judge says, that's absurd. What do you mean the American people wanted this? And the DOJ lawyer Vilchik here said, I mean, the American people selected someone known above all else for his eloquence in communicating to employees, you're fired. This is what they voted for. This is what he said on The Apprentice. Then the judge said, eloquence of doing so? What do you mean? Eloquence of telling people they're fired and firing government workers? Are you saying to us that the DOJ's position here is that Trump was elected based on his eloquence of firing government workers? Yes, said Trump's lawyer. He's known for, above all, I think this is what he's known for right here. And then the judge is like, or the lawyer arguing for the federal workers is like, that's utterly absurd. We'll keep you posted every step of the way, but this is the type of analysis we do here at the MeidasTouch Network. Analysis you're not getting anywhere else. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. Thanks for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.